What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast being the 3 C's with Ginge and the 3 C's being coffee and content creation. I am here today with my husband and co-host, Mr. Josh.
Hello, everybody.
And today we are going to be talking about hobby versus career when it comes to content creation.
Yeah, we've dove into this a little bit before here and there through different podcasts and stuff like that, but we figured we'd dedicate an episode just to talk about it a little bit because there's a bunch of different ways we can go about this and talk about this. So we just want to have a conversation about this. We don't exactly have anything completely planned for it. It was a conversation we wanted to have with you about, again, when it's a hobby versus when it's a career versus transitioning, stuff like that. Yeah.
So this sort of came up to me. I saw somebody post something on Twitter about it, and it really got me thinking because it was, what makes it a career and what makes it a hobby and what sort of is a healthy balance between the two. Now, as most of you know, if you've listened to the previous podcast or if you hang out within the community, I owned my own business. It was crocheting and knitting, and it was really amazing. And it's something that I'm very good at, something I absolutely love to do. However, when I turned it into a career, it became one of the most it was such a burden for me because no longer was I able to enjoy it. I was now having to do things for other people the way they wanted me to do it in a certain amount of time, yada, 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 the way that it comes with a business like that. And so in that aspect, having my own business for something that I absolutely loved and was my favorite hobby almost killed that hobby for me. But now with streaming, video games is another hobby for me. And it's done the exact opposite. If anything, it's made me love gaming more. It's made me love this entire community more. And it really just goes to show how certain things are just different when you experience them differently.
I think that's a great compare and contrast that you had there. So one of the, if we talk about let's say flags or key points that come up. So we'll talk about video gaming right now. Yeah. You like gaming on your time, getting with your buddies online, maybe just streaming here and there, whatever it might be. The second you want to make a switch to go from, let's say right now it's a hobby, you want to try to make it a career and stuff like that, there's going to be some sort of weight on it. It's going to feel like a burden at times and stuff like that. But when the burden becomes too much, when it feels like this is just too much to handle, that isn't necessarily a sustainable career. Yep. We're not even talking about the financials of anything yet and stuff like that. So there are plenty of things that maybe you like doing on your time, on your rules, on your whatever. But when you want to go from something from a hobby to a career, you have to realize it's no longer just when I feel like it. You now have obligations of doing things at certain times, of practicing at certain times, living up to your community at certain times. So when that starts to become a huge burden, that's when you realize that this isn't necessarily a career path that you could go. Yeah. But like Scaredy just said, though, sometimes if you start doing that and realize that, wow, this is working out really well for me, I get to do it even more and stuff like that, those are different indications that maybe you are going down a good route stuff like that.
And it can be hard when you realize that turning your hobby into your business wasn't the best idea. That was very, very difficult for me, realizing that, something that I love, while yes, it can be a sustainable career for some, it just wasn't for me. And it was something that I had truly hoped would be something that I could just, live my life with and be happy. But unfortunately, it didn't work out. And then again, now with the streaming and content creation, I have found my niche. I've found the spot that I'm comfortable at, that I'm most able to be myself with. It's been such an incredible ride. And I never thought it possible. When we sat down to have the conversation of leaving my sales job and putting all of my time into content creation, it was scary because I know what it's like to give up everything to do a business and to see it fail. And so at that moment, there was, of course, a little bit of a nervousness. And there have been times where I have not treated this as a career. And that's when you can see me failing or, slowly just declining with the way that I'm doing things and such, because it is a business. Wrong, right, or indifferent, yes, this is my hobby, but I've turned it into a business. And a lot of times I will try to treat it as a hobby when in reality, I can't do that. If I'm scheduled to stream, I need to stream. If I'm scheduled to put out content, I need to put out content. It doesn't matter how I'm feeling, what I'm doing. People are expecting that. And if I don't give them what they're expecting, that's when you start losing the people that are not necessarily supporting you, because a lot of the people that are there to truly support you will understand. But those people who haven't really kind of stepped into the community yet, but are there supporting you, that's when your numbers start to fall and stuff. And, it can be very overwhelming. And that's when it starts to feel a bit like a burden, because it's like, my God, I have to do this every single day. I have to, even when I'm not feeling good, I have to stream, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, that's what being self-employed is all about. You're the one that makes the money. You're the one that does the content. You're the one that does everything.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's also not to say that you shouldn't also try. If your aspirations are to take a hobby and turn it into a career, which I firmly recommend going that path than just trying to jump right into something, into a career. Start it as a hobby with a passion first. And if your aspirations are to take it to a career, those will be some things that you potentially could overcome, though. That could just feel awkward in that adjustment phase. So keep an eye out for that. That's not to say that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, now I have to do this, adjust to it, see how you like it, and then always be willing to adjust a little bit. I think that's really, really important.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people who stream and create content as a hobby. One of the people that I watch constantly, he's a big part of our community, is Icy Dude. He streams Path of Exile and Minecraft, at night. And it's literally just him hanging out with some friends. All money that he makes while streaming and such goes to veterans and all that kind of stuff. But he has a full-time job during the day that he's not going to give up and he loves. He's somebody that is balancing his hobby with his career. It's not easy at all, especially if you're working, an 8 to 10 hour day, you're coming home and then you're streaming for your hobby. But it can be done, and it can be done in a way that you're happy with. And you know what he's doing? Maybe one day he might be able to leave his job because of streaming, but he's putting in somewhat of the work right now without it being a burden to him.
Right, kind of building that groundwork. And that's where the hobby play comes in. And again, you don't know potentially that if you have a hobby and taking to a career, that just may not be something you would like to do. One of my hobbies is reading. I like reading, but if you told me I had to read books and then review them online and then write a blog post about how I felt about them and stuff like that, I don't think I would like that. Or however you could turn reading books into a career. That was just a quick off the top of my head. I don't know if I'd like that. That may actually burn out some of my passion for reading.
Exactly.
So, I won't ever take that beyond me just reading for my own self-fulfillment. So again, make sure whatever your hobby is, you look at it objectively the best you could. And there's some, you have to remember too, there's some hobbies that you just may not be able to turn into a business. But again, we're talking specifically about content creation. So there are many, many avenues to turn content creation from a hobby into a career. But kind of like on our last episode where we talked about lean startup versus heavy investment, starting something off as a hobby and then turning it to a career is a great way to go, just as Scaredy did. And we did with all of this. Start off slow, build the groundwork, make sure it's something you like, start building a rapport and stuff like that. And then when you want to transition over to a career, it's a lot easier than just leaving your 9 to 5 or whatever it is you do and be like, I'm going to be a full-time content creator. We highly do not recommend that from our experience. It works for some people. And props to you guys. Again, like we say every episode, this is just from our own experiences. So,
and I think too, one way to look at it as when you're streaming, you're essentially putting on a show for whoever's watching you. And so are you willing to play a video game or whatever it is that you're doing with streaming? Maybe you're, like I said, crocheting, maybe you're making, miniatures, whatever it is that you're doing. Are you willing to put on that show for a certain amount of time every single day, if it's every day that you're going to do it or whatever it is, and not be comfortable while doing it. Because here's the thing, you know, I'll always bring it back to crocheting and knitting and stuff like that. Most comfortable for me is sitting on the couch watching TV and knitting and crocheting. I can do it mindlessly. It helps me relax, everything like that. But when I do it on stream, I'm now having to bring in a whole nother aspect where I'm having to talk to my community. I'm having to, you know, balance that with looking at a pattern and, you know, a bunch of other things. And so now it truly becomes something, okay, this is work. I can't just relax while doing this, you know. That's one way to kind of look at it, you know. You can't stream with the shirt off. So if you're somebody that likes to play video games on your couch shirtless, you know, you can't do that on Twitch. You know, there's a whole bunch of different things that you might have to change in order to bring your hobby into a business if content creation is the way that you're wanting to go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are already in the content creation space, or you have the aspirations of eventually turning that into a career, maybe you haven't started yet, what I want you to ask yourself first and foremost is this something I would do for much longer hours for no pay? You know, it might be something you're passionate about, but that's something you have to get over. And I'm not necessarily talking about money. Again, we're not talking about money here. I'm just simply saying, would you be willing to do whatever you're doing right now or want to do for 10 to 12 hours a day with no pay? Then yes, you might have a career eventually on your hands. But that is what it's going to feel like if you turn something from a hobby into a career.
Exactly.
Because you're going to be putting in a lot of hours. Whether you have a team or not, whether it's just you, it doesn't matter. You're going to be putting in a lot of hours, both in front of camera or whatever your content creation is, and behind the scenes. Because that's something a lot of people don't really understand about content creation that don't do it, is for, you know, every hour you see of whatever content's being put out, whether it's streaming or YouTube video, stuff like that, writing, whatever, you know, let's say you see an hour of content, there's probably about 10 times of background work before any sort of content can even get produced. So, you know, if you like, we'll use streaming for this one. Maybe you like playing Halo. I won't talk about Halo because I love Halo, and I'm getting very, very excited for the new Halo.
Very excited.
Very excited.
Stop it with the ASMR.
You did it first.
I know.
So we're gonna talk about Halo real quick. You're a big Halo nerd. You love playing it. You love getting with the guys and playing Halo. Would you play Halo for 12 hours a day with no pay on a set schedule, hoping to build that into some sort of career? You know, that right there, you know, we basically just described ninja, right? You know, again, I'm not necessarily saying you're going to be like ninja or anything like that, but that's a question you have to ask yourself. Yeah. I know for a fact, when Halo 4 came out, quite a few years ago and stuff like that, I was playing a lot of Halo 4, and it was pretty good because I was coming off of about 2 years of playing Reach semi-professionally. Halo Reach, best Halo ever. And I was like, you know, maybe I could do this. And I wasn't looking at Ninja at the time or anything. I was like, maybe I could do this. I think I could be a professional gamer and stuff like that. And I'm going to be real with you guys. I made it a month of doing about 10 to 12 hour days of practicing, because you have to practice to get good. It's not just playing the game for the fun of it. Exactly. It is now taking a game and turning this into a career.
Because you're competing with a lot of people.
Exactly. And I made it a month, and I couldn't do it anymore. I hadn't left my job at the time or anything like that. I was still managing everything, and it wasn't the fact that I was working a regular job while trying to do this that burned me out. It just burned me out because it actually burned out my passion for the game. And I love the lore of Halo. I love all of that stuff, but that really, really, really burned me out. So that's not to say you can't test out turning a hobby into a career like that. And I'm glad I did, you know, because I realized even if I had the skill level, I don't think the passion would be there. And I'm a hard charger. If I make a decision, I'm going to push through. But at that moment in my life, it wasn't necessarily feasible. And again, that's also something you should ask yourself. Maybe this is a hobby now and a career down the road, so I can keep building stuff. But I just kind of want to share that little more personal story to get you to understand that, yes, the idea of playing video games for 12, 14, 20 hours a day is great. I love it too, don't get me wrong. But you may not be able to actually turn that into a career, or it may just completely burn you out from even wanting to play the video game. So that's a scary place to be.
And, you know, That's so one way that I combat, because there have been many times where RuneScape has become very monotonous for me, and I have literally been like, I don't want to stream this anymore. One thing that I came to terms with is I love the game, and I'm going to play the game that I want, you know, the way that I want to play it. And so that's really helped me, because one of the things that you also have to understand is you have to keep the love alive for what you're doing, right? So you're doing this for a reason. You obviously love some sort of aspect of content creation, whether that's hanging out with people while you video game, or you're playing the drums on stream, or you're cooking, or whatever it is. You have to find that balance of what makes it fun for you and what makes it fun for everyone else. You cannot sacrifice your happiness and your well-being to make everybody else happy, because what's going to end up happening, you're going to burn out, and then you're going to absolutely hate whatever it is that you were doing, because now anytime that you think about it, it's just negative, 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 negative. This is what I hate about it. This is what's bad about it. And so instead of doing that, it's that balance. You have to find that balance.
I think it's a good point, but I actually want to kind of caveat off of that. So start off by saying that, you know, one thing that helped me was telling people and just understanding that I want to play the game the way I want to play it. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to do that with, again, sticking on the game side. We're not going to be able to do that with every game. No. If you're playing a first-person shooter, you don't necessarily get to play the game you want to play. There are structured rules in the game. There are advantages to things. You know, it's like if you're playing Counter-Strike professionally, you know, there are very set ways of how you're going to play maps, how you're going to move with teams and stuff like that, and you can't just kind of go rogue. So that's something you have to think about too. If you're trying to do some sort of, you know, do my own way, that may not even work for you. But there's ways, again, just talking about just playing video games, there could be ways that you could make it a little bit more about yourself. So while maybe trying to play on a professional team and stuff like that, like, there are set rules and set ways you have to do things, but then maybe your creative side is on doing YouTube videos about that kind of deal, and you're sharing some whatever, or maybe teaching people off of YouTube. So understand, no matter what you do, there's always a little flair you can put in that is you, and that's really what you should look for, because that'll keep that passion alive. 100%. So it's just, again, something to think about in that aspect.
Yeah. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, going from a hobby to a career, or a career to a hobby, that transition is always going to be a little rocky. Whether you've planned it to a T and you've got, you know, everything that you know that you're going to do, there's always going to be something that's going to happen that's going to make you question it. I think that's just human nature, because you move into something new, there's always going to be oh crap, is this really what I want to do? Or, oh no, like, you know, what's going to happen now? I think what a lot of people, and, you know, I actually just saw the statistics, most content creators quit after 3 to 6 months. And usually the reason is because you have low viewership, nobody's giving you money, and it's hard, right? And so, yeah, that's pretty normal. But two, I think it has a lot to do with, it's just much more different than what people thought it would be. You know, it's easy to sit there and, you know, play a video game all day, but when you're sitting there playing a video game all day with people there expecting things from you, and you having to perk up and keep the conversation going and take care of yourself so you don't burn out, it becomes a whole other beast. Whereas, again, with a hobby, you can do it on your own time, you can do it how you want to do it, and you can do it when you want to do it.
Absolutely. Jump back to that statistics, where if most content creators drop out after 3 to 6 months, to give you guys a metaphor, because you guys know I love just trying to give you a different perspective, trying to drive our points home. You know, if you're going to the gym, you're trying to lose weight, and let's say we're just going to the gym, 3 months is a decent amount of time to see some change. 6 months is obviously plenty and stuff like that if you are putting in the work. But if you're just going through the motions for 3 to 6 months and you're not seeing results, that's where most people end up quitting. I mean, granted, most people, when they decide to go to the gym, again, this is also being recorded at the new year, so it's a good thing to talk about. Most people barely make it into February, which is really too bad. So if you are trying to do this as a solely results based, that is going to let you down. You have to drive past that. You know, that's where a hobby is something you do for you. A career is something that you do for other people. Exactly. I think is a great way to put it. And that's where that I don't like to use the word burden, but that's where that pressure comes from. A hobby, the pressure's on you just to, hey, I want to go shoot some Halo Reach. I want to just play some Halo Reach versus I have a tournament coming up that I have to get ready for. I need to be putting in 12 to 14 a day with my team.
Yep.
You see how different that is right there? I mean, while yes, maybe both can be fun to a certain extent, those are very, very different situations, guys. Yep. So you have to understand whatever it is, whatever content creation you're trying to put out there. And I firmly believe in you. I think you can do it. Don't get me wrong, but you have to understand that pressure is now completely shifted.
Yep. And so with that being said, I think that'll do it for this episode. We just wanted to talk about that hobby versus your career. Again, things that get talked about a lot when I'm streaming and stuff like that we, talk about with the community and such. And, we'd love to have your opinions and your ideas and maybe things that you've dealt with when it comes to this, because everybody experiences things differently. What might be easy for some isn't easy for others, and you might give an idea to somebody, and, at the end of the day, we're just here to help you. So anyway, if you haven't already joined our Discord, we would love to have you in there. It's ever growing. So many incredible people there from all walks of lives. And if you haven't, also follow me on Twitch and on Twitter. We also have our very own Twitter for this. I will link it down below, and we'd love it if you'd go follow us. And I guess that's going to do it for us today. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we will see you again soon. Bye.